So in SBS 111, which was covered on the channel, it was mentioned that there is a such thing as a failed awakening, which is what we see in the Jailer Beast. However, based on another video I made, I think there are levels to failed awakenings. So obviously, we have the Jailer Beast, right? And they all have beady eyes. However, in there lies the rub, because there's one Jailer Beast that does not have beady eyes, that being Minnow Zebra. I think Minnow Zebra is in a unique state onto himself, in which he can see all of what he is doing, but he is not at liberty to stop himself. The I guess horse fruit model zebra. It's never been named, but I'm just going to assume that's what the fruit's called. But yeah, that fruit has hijacked his entire body, but he's just conscious enough to know what he's doing, but is not able to stop himself, which is scary. He's trapped within his own body in that way. Whereas I think the other Jailer Beasts, including the new one, Minnow Chihuahua, are just kind of gone. Like the lights are on, but nobody's home, completely just vanished. But that's what I'm coming to the idea of what's going on. And Minnow Zebra is just unique in that, because it's so odd that he is the only one without beady eyes. Continuing, I think there are some other failed awakenings in the series. The Berserk failed awakening, I think, is a thing, because we see this both in Smiley, of which I covered, and we see this in Monster Chopper in the pre-time skip, in which they have beady eyes, but the eyes are glowing. Perhaps this means that they are just filled with malice and rage, and also cannot stop themselves. But there's a weird sort of unsettling intelligence about this state, because in both cases we've seen the bodies of these creatures act very intelligently just based off an instinct. You don't really see this with Chopper himself, but you do see this in Punk Hazard when Frankie swaps bodies with Chopper and is interested in Monster Point, turns into Monster Point, and then is able to react to a falling iceberg, throwing it out the way when he and Luffy are alone. So I find that interesting. And then, of course, I've done videos on Smiley and how it's so weird that he was intelligent enough to place himself all around the island to avoid the water, despite being an aquatic creature by nature. So that's weird. But to continue, that's what I think is going on, because it's very curious in how both Smiley and Monster Chopper are depicted in the same way. And perhaps this is just another blend to the failed awakening, I guess, compendium. Then we have the conscious failed awakening, which I think is applicable to Chopper in the post-time skip after he's eaten a Rumble Ball, and Sengoku, former fleet admiral of the Marines. Because what's interesting about Sengoku is that we know he's not a fully awakened person because he doesn't have the Hagoromo sash around him, but I don't think he is simply transforming. I'm thinking, based on his clothes turning gold, which I've mentioned many times before, he's in a similar boat to Luffy, because he is a human that ate a human fruit. And much like Luffy, with his clothes turning white, Sengoku's clothes turn gold. So perhaps, much like Luffy, he's got some similar abilities when he's in his normal state, but he only transforms when he awakens. But seeing as how, perhaps due to some mental block or his job, he will never be fully awakened because his lifestyle doesn't run parallel with that of the great Buddhas, or what the Buddha represents. Same thing could be said for Chopper. Chopper is still accessing an awakening through artificial means with the use of the Rumble Ball. So maybe though his mind and body now have caught up with his abilities enough to where he can control it, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's fully awakened. Because it is quite interesting, like the Jailer Beasts, even in the pre-time skip, that the stats of his body skyrocket when he's in this state. So that's why I think, too, this is a failed awakening, but like Sengoku, a failed awakening that he can simply control now. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede What?